Hey everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you another movie review. Today I am reviewing a classic from the late 80s, and it's a movie that I only saw for the first time all the way through a few years ago. As a kid, I watched the sequel a lot, which I'll get to that when I get to the next review. And I'd seen bits and pieces of this film over the years, but I had never actually sat down and watched the whole film all the way through, despite the fact that I had the DVD for a couple years beforehand. But I have to say, I really do love the film. And that, of course, is the film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator. And, of course, yes, this is the bare bones DVD version. I do really have to get that special edition in my collection one day. Like I said, the movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Bill Duke, Jesse Ventura, Elpidia Carrillo, Sonny Landon, and, of course, Kevin Peter Hall is the title character, even though he's not really credited in the movie until the credits, which is kind of a throwback if you think to the old days of monster movies, because I know in the first Frankenstein movie, Boris Karloff wasn't credited until the end credits, and in the sequel, the actress that played the bride wasn't credited either, so it's a little throwback to that. Anyway, the score is done by Alan Silvestri, and it's a beautiful score, and I do not think it got any nominations, because I don't think this movie got any awards. Never mind, it did. It got an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects, which it so rightly deserved, which I think it should have got. I don't know what it lost to it. I think it might, correct me if I'm wrong. No, that was the year before, excuse me. Thought I was going to say maybe it lost to Aliens, but no, I think they were nominated different years. Alan Silvestri apparently did win 2 awards for his music. He won the Saturn Award, but he still should have gotten at least an Oscar nomination for the score, and yeah, at least it got 1 Academy Award nomination, and it was one of the ones that it so richly deserved. But like I mentioned before, action movies usually only get the technical Academy Award nominations, like Rambo 2 getting sound mixing or something, a nomination. But anyway, the movie is directed by John McTiernan, I believe. Remember, I have to guess at the pronunciations here if I've never heard it. This is actually his second film. He had only directed his first film the following year. And the following year, he followed it up with another 80s classic, Die Hard, which I only watched for the first time a while ago, and I gotta watch it again before I review it. And of course, he followed it 2 years later with The Hunt for Red October, a movie which I reviewed earlier this year in Oscar reviews. And of course, also in the 90s, he did Last Action Hero, a movie that has mixed views, which I do want to give a watch one day. And of course, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which I hear good things about. 13th Warrior, hear mixed things about it. I got the book that it's based off over there I want to read. And he hasn't done a movie in almost 10 years. I mean, the last movie he did was Basic, and the year before that he did the remake of Rollerball, and I've heard terrible things about that. It makes me wonder why he doesn't direct things anymore. Maybe not getting offers, maybe not getting any good scripts, but it'd be nice to see him return to action movies, especially since we need it nowadays. Probably would have been a better idea for him to direct Expendables 2 than the other guy they got, but from the looks of things it might just be a ghost director, but that's just speculation. We'll just have to wait and see. Sorry if you heard a noise, I accidentally just hit the mic. Now, anyway, the plot of this movie is that this group of soldiers led by Major Dutch Schaefer, if I pronounce his last name correctly, are heading into a country in South America to rescue a presidential cabinet minister and his aide who were captured by guerrilla forces. And they are joined by Dutch's old military buddy, Dylan, who now works in the CIA. He's the liaison between him and the general character. They all head in, and it looks like it's going to be a routine mission, but as along the way they just give her hints that it's not so routine, or not as routine as they were led to believe. Like they find the wreckage of a downed helicopter, they find bodies that are weird. They eventually find the guerrillas, and we get a very great action sequence that is straight out of the 80s. Very well shot, blood squibs, explosions, one-liners, knock knock, stick around. And of course, as things go on, they find out that they were actually not told everything, you know, but it's the military, you gotta expect something like that. And as they're on their way out with a captured woman named Anna, they start to get picked off one by an unknown creature. And as they find out, it is the Predator. And everyone knows at least what the Predator is, even if they haven't seen the movie. They're vaguely aware of it. You know, reptilian-like creature, like gauntlet blades, turns invisible, has a shoulder cannon. But of course, since it's being the first movie, the way that the movie slowly sets it up, it makes you wonder, what is the thing at first? What's it doing? Of course, at first you could tell. The first thing you know about it is, of course, it sees heat. That's the first thing we see as point of view shot. And it actually kind of is like an action slasher movie when the Predator starts to slowly pick them off one by one. I'm not going to spoil who and when and what, obviously, but you could tell some characters have to die. And of course, in the end, obviously, it's going to be Arnold versus the Predator, and that's the last thing, which the genesis of this movie, if I remember correctly, originated as a joke involving Rambo, Stallone's character. It's like, no, it wasn't Rambo, it was Rocky, I think. Yeah, it was Rocky. Excuse me, Rambo. His two best known characters. You gotta forgive me for mixing him up. It was Rocky. That he had fought everybody. The only person left to fight was an alien. Rocco, you can't fight the Martian on Mars. Why not? There's no air on Mars. Well, there'll be no air for him either. I gotta go fight the Martian, Paulie. But Paulie, I'm pushing the Martian. I just think that's my best Sylvester Stallone impression I've ever done. Well, you know, I gotta fight Paulie, no. Yo, Adrian. No. Yeah, I think I'm starting to get that impression down, actually. Now when I do some Sly reviews, I'll be able to do it. Yeah, maybe I could do banter. Yo, Sly! I want the bigger role in Expendables 2. Well, you know, Arnold, by the time you'll be out of the governor's office, so sure, I'll get you a big one. I want to blow shit up again. I'm tired of being in family-friendly movies. Well, you know, that wasn't my fault that you were in that. I do not care. I want bigger movies. You know, this isn't the 90s anymore. I know it's not the 90s. Anyway, back to the movie review. Excuse me. I just couldn't resist, guys. I actually forgot where I was. Oh yeah, I think it was on the Genesis. I already finished it. Rocky versus an Alien. And as I said before, the way that the suspense is slowly built up, it works. And it's a good example of how you slowly build suspense in a movie and then pay it off epically. And it's in that respect that I guess, from what I remember of the third film, Predators, that's why you could see it's kind of a B version of the movie. But I remember I got to rewatch Predators. I haven't seen it since the theater, so we'll just see how my opinion of that movie has changed. I'm probably going to still enjoy it at least a little bit, but it's probably going to pale in comparison to this movie. Now, of course, this is a classic, well-deserved. It's actually one of the few action movies, if I remember correctly, that the highbrow critics like Siskel and Ebert actually like, because that's rare, because think of it. Most action movies usually got crapped on a lot by the highbrow critics. I think some of the few exceptions would be Rambo 08, First Blood. I don't remember if Last Action Hero was praised. I think it might have been for its self-satire. I think Die Hard was praised. I know Aliens was, but it's usually when it's action mixed with another thing that usually is. But usually, like the straight ones from the 80s and the 90s, they never really were praised. Like, look at Expendables. Critics bashed on that for no reason. I mean, what were the critics expecting? Sly said it was going to be a movie that seemed like it fit in the 80s, and it was. But that's another review for another day. The acting in the movie is what you would expect in an action movie. I mean, there's no Oscar caliber acting. Like, you're not going to see Arnold go to be or not to be. That's another movie in of itself, which you guys should already know what I was referencing there. You killed my father. Big mistake. But the back and forth between all the characters, you believe that they actually were on a team. Not to the extent that, like in Aliens, not that close in Conor Armour. Not that close, but you can believe it. It's more so between Dutch and Dylan because they're old comrades. And it's just very believable. And of course, this is the same year that, if I remember correctly, that Lethal Weapon came out. So Shane Black, the writer of Lethal Weapon, is in a good action movie, and he wrote a good action movie. 2 for 1 sale. Hosea Seiko Bat. Couldn't resist that either. Of course, Kevin Peter Hall, he did a magnificent job as the Predator, and it's one of the things I can say that is sorely missed from the films after Predator 2, because the guy who did the job in the AVP films, he's serviceable, but he's no Kevin Peter Hall. I mean, if Peter Hall was still alive, he would have been in that movie, and if he was alive but couldn't be in the movie, he probably would have instructed the guy. And of course, remember that, dang it, the guy's name. Oh my god, I gotta go to the Predators page in order to remember the guy's name. I can't believe it. You guys should know what I'm talking about. It's the guy that played the classic Predator and Predators. So, for those of you who know the movie, you guys should be knowing who I'm talking about. Casting. It should be down here. Derek Mears. There it is. Derek Mears. I knew it was DM. Derek Mears. Yep, that's right. The new Jason. He also played the guy who played the classic Predator and Predators. He based it. If I remember correctly, he based his performance off Kevin Peter Hall, but who better than to base your performance off of than the original Predator? Because he's the one that set the look. Even though if I remember correctly, the makeup and stuff was done by Stan Winston. He set the look. He set the movements and everything. So if you're going to play a live-action Predator, you should base it off the original and not try to come up with your own. Maybe a little bit, but try to at least base it off of what we've seen already. Which that's where I think that the AVP ones kind of fail, because it's like he's trying to do his own thing. And it's kind of funny if that the Predator was originally going to be played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mr. Booty Man himself. That would be weird. And could you imagine how the Predator film would have turned out if it was like a ninja-like Predator? Well, technically it is ninja-like, but ninja-like is in martial arts, like wata, you know, kicking them, like kicking Dylan in the face. That end of the movie, Arnold, first getting his butt kicked with martial arts, like that would have been interesting to see, but for how it turns out, it works better, with Arnold's character getting slapped around instead of, karate chop into oblivion. It kind of works a little bit more. And that's why I also think it was a better idea to go with Kevin Peter Hall, because Arnold is so big that you would actually need someone that actually looks like he could physically toss Arnold around like a rag doll. It's like one of the things in professional wrestling. In professional wrestling, the people that usually do squash matches are like the bigger guys. They're the ones that usually win in a matter of moments, or like the Giant, like Andre the Giant or Big Show. Them you could believe like beating a normal sized guy in like only like a couple minutes because of the size difference. It's the same principle, because Kevin Peter Hall is about 7 feet tall. Arnold, I believe, is about the same height as me, about 6'4"-ish. And he weighed, I think, in around the 270 range. But Kevin Peter Hall, I don't think weighed that much. But at least in the outfit, he would look like he probably weighs about the same. But he's an alien and stuff. And the height difference, you believe that Arnold could be tossed around the way he is at the end. And this continues, of course, into the next movie as well. Of course, that one would be a little bit more believable, even if it was just a normal-sized Predator. But I digress. I don't know what else to say about this movie without going too in-depth and giving away spoilers. It's just that how it was shot in the jungle of, I believe, Guatemala is where they shot it. So I know they shot it somewhere in Central America. The areas they chose really fit the film. And I don't think it was that far into the jungle. Or actually, I think it might have been shot in Mexico, if I remember correctly. But the way it was shot, it was beautifully shot. Like I said, the acting, pretty good for a action movie. But it's nothing, like I said, Oscar-worthy. But you don't expect it to be. John McTiernan did a good job with directing. Like I mentioned, the music, great. The cinematography, excellent. And they all come together to make a very great action movie. And I have to say that I don't know what rank it would be, but this would probably be in my top 10 films of the 80s in general. And if you have not seen Predator, I highly recommend you watch it.